on my phone just to make sure. It will probably say got it right now.
Yeah.
Don't press leave meeting.
No, I haven't.
Cool. So should be live any second now. It sometimes takes a while on Facebook. So cool. Yeah, we are now live. Perfect. So I'm here with Hannah Hatherell from Natural Hypnotherapy. So what we're going to be talking about today is topic of self-sabotage, but also self-sabotage and achieving weight loss. You know, a lot of people, you know, as I often talk about, come to us and talk about, you know, I tried everything before, you know, nothing's really stuck and worked. And self-sabotage is something that comes up a lot. And even those words self-sabotage, they can mean different things to different people. Like to one person, self-sabotage is not showing up to an exercise session. To someone else, it's eating 10 packets of biscuits or whatever. So before we go into all that though, Hannah, if you just want to introduce yourself and let everyone know kind of who you are and what you do.
Great, thanks, Matt. Hi, everyone. I am Hannah Hatherell. I am a clinical hypnotherapist. I've been a hypnotherapist for about 13 years now. And I stumbled across it actually when I was trying to get pregnant many years ago, and it was taking a really long time, and I was hugely stressed out about it. And a friend's dad was a hypnotherapist. She said, you need to go and see my dad. He'll totally sort you out. You won't feel stressed afterwards. And I thought, I'm not really sure that's going to work. So I've tried everything. Anyway, one session with him and I walked out feeling absolutely incredible, and ended up getting pregnant, and all was well. And it really had a big impact on me, how just one session of hypnotherapy, sort of rearranging what was in my subconscious mind, made me feel positive and much more in control of my thoughts and emotions. So I decided that once I'd had kids of my own, I wanted to become a hypnotherapist myself, so I could help people around sort of anxious feelings and sorting their lives out, basically, and helping them achieve what they want to achieve out of life. So when I initially started, I was helping people with things like fertility, and I've always taught hypnobirthing classes, so for people with childbirth. And I guess as I've got older, I've studied more in the areas of menopause and weight gain, and all sorts of things. As my age has progressed, I've sort of progressed along with it. So I help a lot of people who are struggling with the effects of anxiety due to all sorts of reasons, but a lot of them are going through menopause and feeling very anxious and gaining weight through that period of their life. And I help them to achieve what they want in terms of things like weight loss, sugar addiction, cutting back on alcohol. That seems to be a really common one at the moment, because so many people increase their alcohol consumption during the lockdowns, and they've now got used to having half a bottle or a bottle of wine every day, whereas before they never would have done that. And of course, with that comes quite serious weight gain when you think of the calorie intake per bottle of wine.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, in terms of like lockdown and the different habits that we brought up, there was actually one study that showed that people just gravitated to what they almost do normally. So if you often stress eat, you just stress eat more. If you don't eat when you stressed, you just didn't eat because of stress more. Similar with exercise as well. Although some people did get into more exercise, like, you know, we worked with quite a lot of people who made drastic transformations during lockdown. So that's great. And I think it's real powerful, you know, the things you mentioned about going into more like anxiety side of things, and how, you know, when someone embarks on a weight loss journey, there's that underlying theme that might have stopped them before, but we might be unaware of it. And I talk about this a lot in terms of there's something else there. And sometimes it's what we think we need isn't actually what we do need. But yeah, if you want to, what kind of issues have you been working with like recently, and what kind of strategies have you used? Because I want to make this as kind of practical as possible as well for people who are on as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think when it comes to losing the weight, and, you know, in my hypnotherapy practice, we talk a lot about sort of the whys. You know, it has to be a reason why. Why do you want to lose the weight? What are your goals? And if you can really focus in on those goals and look forward to something in the future, then that really gives you an incentive to move forward. If you just think, well, you know, wouldn't mind losing a pound or two, but I don't really have a reason, then that's a lot harder. If you've got an event like, I don't know, a wedding or something specific in the future, it really, really helps to have that to drive the mindset. So that's really important. The main things that I've been helping people with at the moment are things like sugar addiction and cutting back on the alcohol. I'm also working on something that's newly released in the UK, the Hypno fasting program, which was developed by a Dutch hypnotherapist called Rob de Groef. He's a really interesting character, and he developed it because obviously intermittent fasting has become something that's really very popular in terms of weight loss, and hypnosis surrounding intermittent fasting is something that can be used with whatever fasting program you choose. So whether you do the 5-2 or the 16-8 or the warrior diet, any of those, you can use the hypnosis to help support you on that. And the way that it works is we sort of really focus in on, why do you want to lose the weight? What is it that you're hoping to gain out of it, and how much you want to lose? And then you start to visualize yourself as a person of that size. Because if you start to visualize yourself as a slimmer person, then you will start to behave like that slimmer person, which really does make a big difference. And we give our clients recordings. So there's a recording that they can listen to every night just as they drop off to sleep, that really helps reinforce those reasons why and how much better they will feel when they have lost the weight. We also, what's quite interesting is we have an active alert hypnosis. So it's a recording that people can listen to when they're exercising or when they're just out for a walk, to help boost their metabolism, to get that working much better for them. Because often people who do gain weight, their metabolism is a bit sluggish and it's not really working as well for them. So if you can listen to something regularly, that again helps reinforce what you do within the sessions with the therapist. And it's like, I'm sure you use affirmations within your business, but if you have lots and lots of positive affirmations in terms of losing weight and why you're losing weight, then that makes a big difference as well, if you've got something to really focus on. And the affirmations help you to feel much stronger and more in control.
Yeah, definitely. I think there's some real good points on there about the visualizing. Something that we talk about a lot is acting based on how you want to feel, rather than how you currently feel. And you know, often, and I say this to people because we often judge ourselves, and I say there's a difference between being critical and curious, right? So critical, it's really easy to be critical of yourself, really easy. It's almost like, I know this sounds a bit harsh, but it's almost like the easy way out. The easy way out is to go, oh damn it, I've eaten those crisps and chocolate, I've missed that exercise, and why am I so rubbish? That's like almost kind of easy to do, and we all do it, me included. I'm like, oh, I didn't get my workout in. If I get curious, okay, why didn't I get my workout in today? What was going through my head? What were the thoughts going through my head? We start to be curious of what's going on, so we can get awareness and make that change. And by doing that, we can start to act based on how we want to feel. Okay, so what would the me who was a stone lighter or who would exercise daily, what would they do in this situation? What would they be thinking? How would they behave? Then we can align our actions with them, acting on how we want to feel rather than how we currently feel. Because of course, when I wake up in the morning, and I had this discussion with someone just before, I don't always leap out of bed like buzzing, but once I'm out of bed and I'm awake, now I'm buzzing. Now I've got up, now I'm feeling good, and I'm thinking, I've got 2 hours, an hour, whatever, before the kids get up. I can get my stuff done so I'm going back to my why, like you mentioned as well. So that I can be a better dad, better husband, less ratty to be around, and everything kind of falls into place a little bit better. That's important. Otherwise, I know later on I'm going to be chasing my tail, trying to look after kids, and I've got less patience around them. And it comes back to my why. Okay, do I want to be ratty and rubbish all day, or do I want to get up and and actually be more productive and
Yeah.
go over those whys. And you mentioned about the affirmations as well. Yeah, so absolutely. So we use something called a benefits card as well. So those top reason, and check in with them daily. And I actually spoke with someone this morning. They said they're going to try and get up for our 6:30 a.m. session. And she's like, yeah, I'll see how I get on. And one of her things is when that alarm goes off, before she can hit snooze, she has to read her benefits cards. So the benefits cards are like the top two reasons. So it could be for my kids, for my son, for my so that I can fit into this dress for X, Y, Z. Whatever's important, so that I can reduce my medication, whatever, diabetes, whatever it is. That big why, that kick up the bum, read them, then decide if you want to hit snooze or not. Don't judge either way. Just get curious and just increase that awareness. Yeah. Oh, hang on.
Just lost it for a second.
Yeah. Cool. Did you get that?
Yes, I did. Yeah, I mean, a lot of what what goes on with the attitude towards weight loss or motivation comes from what's held within our subconscious mind. So if you imagine the subconscious is like the part of the iceberg that is beneath the water. Mm-hmm. And all of our experiences throughout our whole life are held in our subconscious mind, and you can't really access them when you're in your normal waking state, when you're alert and you're active. But when you're really relaxed and calm, you're able to sort of delve into the subconscious mind and sort out what's in there. And if you imagine the subconscious, deep within the subconscious, like corridors with loads of rooms going off them, like in a massive hotel or a big storage unit. And within those doors, you've got all sorts of baggage in some of the rooms. Some of the rooms are neat and tidy, and other rooms are, overflowing with all kinds of rubbish. What we can do with hypnosis is to delve in, tidy up those rooms, and then close the door on them. So sometimes in the past where, maybe that there's been a reason, some sort of trauma or some sort of trigger to make people lose the weight, we can go into their subconscious and rearrange the way that they feel about themselves, and potentially sort of tone down those feelings, those negative feelings or negative feelings of self-belief, or try and help them process the trauma that they've been through, so that they feel much better about themselves and therefore are much more likely to, be able to go ahead and lose the weight that they want to lose. Because if you don't feel strong, if you don't feel powerful, and if you don't feel in control of yourself, then it's very hard to move forward.
Yeah, that's such a big important point in terms of the control.
Yeah,
I think control, something that we do, and I always say we describe it like the 1 week from now strategy. So 1 week from now, and I always say in terms of 1 week from now, like, be 100% confident that you can do the things that you just said you would do. So we won't finish our initial kickstart that we have. I had a chat with someone this morning. It was like they set their 3 habits. The first one, they were like, right, habit 1, I've set. How confident are you of achieving that? 7 out of 10. Okay, cool. We're going to go.
Yeah.
We tweaked it a bit. Now we're 9 out of 10. Okay, now we're 10 out of 10. Right, cool. And I said that about control because on one hand, we strive for that control, but often we don't actually define what it actually means to achieve whatever that control is. And what I mean by that is I do use this example, like, I'm going to eat healthy. I'm going to eat everything in moderation, or, I'm going to try and eat healthy this time. But the person in the street wouldn't even know what you mean by that. What does eating healthy mean? And the more question marks you have, the more the monkey on the shoulder, whatever you want to call it, the gorilla brain, will come in with all those kind of little half-truths and those little things that come up, just those little questions in terms of, okay, yeah, you can have that, you deserve it, you deserve a treat, you deserve that, you're worth that. And all of a sudden we don't even know what our expectations are. We don't know what success looks like, and it comes back to kind of having that goal and defining it. And it's like some of the one of the habits we set just now was kind of after dinner. It sounds odd, but going back to like kids and whatnot, and when we were younger, they were like, oh yeah, I've never thought of having a bouillon or a bovril after dinner. Now, this isn't for everyone. This is like a specific thing for them that they're like, yeah, I actually find that really satisfying. Because normally I'm like, I want something, but I don't know what I want. And then I have something sweet, and I can't stop.
Yeah.
When I have that kind of salty taste, it doesn't do the same for me, but it satisfies me. And it's warm, it's comforting. It reminds me of being a kid. And all of a sudden, they're like,
feeling, yeah.
And I can do that today. And all you have to do is do it today, right? You don't have to do it tomorrow, it's just for today. And if you have that mindset of just for today, that's a really big thing when it comes to self-sabotage, or whatever we define as self-sabotage being, you know, like.
Absolutely.
Often we're self-sabotaging ourselves because we're listening to the monkey on our shoulder, which says, you won't be able to keep this up.
Yeah.
A year from now. And it doesn't even matter. And I say to people, just do it today. Just do it today. And then guess what? We'll get started today. We'll start making progress today.
And each day is a new day. And, you know, if you experience a setback on one occasion, it doesn't mean you're going to, you know, completely go downhill. You know, you can adjust the way you feel. And that's why I provide recordings for my clients, so that they can literally listen to it every night thinking, right, tomorrow is a new day. Tomorrow I'm going to do this, that, and, you know, the other, so that I can really focus on what I want to achieve. But, you know, it's amazing what you can do with the subconscious. You can actually change the way that people feel about certain foods, and you can turn on the thirst desire as well, because, you know, so many people, when they think that they want food, they're actually thirsty and they haven't had enough to drink. So in hypnosis, we can actually, you know, get their thirst reflex to be really, really vivid in their mind, so that when they think, oh, I actually wouldn't mind something, think, no, I am thirsty and I really want to drink, and they'll keep drinking. And that, you know, really helps them to stop hunger pangs and, you know, not want to eat as much.
Absolutely. Well, you just said the word first. And I can guarantee that when you said the word first desire, drink water, someone definitely just drank a glass of water or said, yeah, I better have a glass of water. I actually picked up my cup when you said the word first. Yeah. And it's just powerful how words can do that, right?
Absolutely.
So, yeah. And water's such a simple one that most of us know about, but it's so cliche, we just don't often do it. And especially this time of year when it gets a bit colder, it can be quite harder to drink. And I say to people, it's okay if, like, you want to have you know, what's the next best thing? People think, oh, I don't like water, then I don't drink enough, then I end up being maybe hungrier than normal, or I have headaches and I don't feel good, then I make worse decisions, I'm less productive. You know, if you're going to have herbal tea or some squash or whatever, and that's your thing, what's the alternative will give you the answer of whether it's okay or not. I'm just conscious, I'm just running out of battery, 1 second.
Okay.
So one thing I just wanted to touch on as well, what would you say were kind of if someone comes to you kind of, or even not, if we said self-sabotage, first off, let's define it. How would you define self-sabotage?
Well, it's just, you know, if you're self-sabotaging, you are stopping yourself from achieving what you want to achieve, and you just keep repeating that behavior. So you need to change that pattern of behavior.
Yeah.
And quite often that is, like you say, the monkey on your shoulder. As in the world of hypnosis, we talk about parts. We talk about the different parts of your mind. So quite often a technique that hypnotherapists use is to actually, when somebody is in a state of hypnosis, which, by the way, is not anything weird. Hypnosis is something that we experience all the time. We go in and out of hypnosis when we are reading books. If you can't remember the page that you've just read of a book, you're in a hypnotic state. Every morning, just as you're waking up and your body feels really comfortable and relaxed, you're in a hypnotic state. And just as you drift off to sleep in the evening, you're in a hypnotic state. So it's not a weird, strange feeling to be in a hypnotic state. But as a therapist, I guide people to get there. And when they are in that state, they're much more open to learning new things, taking on new ideas, and changing the way they feel about themselves. So one of the therapies that we use is parts therapy, where we actually get them to have an internal dialogue with the different parts of their body and think, okay, well, you can go into your mind and think, well, what does need changing, and you can get them to imagine that they're in a control room with lots of different knobs and switches and dials, and you can turn the dials up on things like thirst, and you can turn the dials down on things like appetite. And it sounds wacky, but it really does, it makes a difference. And when you turn off that sort of hunger feeling within someone's subconscious mind, they genuinely don't feel as hungry.
Yeah, it's interesting. And with the self-sabotage, it's really interesting because you mentioned about open to new things, and it's also like that mindfulness, isn't it, in terms of being aware of, is it self-sabotage, or are we just putting more attention on the benefits of doing it rather than the drawbacks of doing it, right? Because we're still making the choice. There's a benefit and a drawback of every decision we make.
Yes.
We're doing it because perhaps we see the benefits outweighing the drawbacks. So for example, you know, I just crave something in the evening, crave something nice and sweet. That's often something that we'd hear. And when you ask the question and get curious, like I said, like, you know, what are you craving more? Are you craving your why more, in terms of whether that was related to weight, health, feeling, or that sense of achievement, whatever it is, something related to kids, being less breathless upstairs, whatever it is, or are you craving that food more? And how do you actually feel when you have it? You know, do you feel good? Do you feel, and you know, one of the strategies that we use quite often is to actually describe the situation. So let's say you do it. Let's say you are going to start eating when you're not hungry in the evening. That's fine if it makes you feel better. If it truly makes you feel better, fine. And you're happy with that, go with it. And I'm more relating to people who maybe want to change that habit. You describe what's going on. So I take a bite, it goes into my stomach, the sugar, I get a sugar rush, blood sugar levels go higher, my pancreas secretes insulin. This brings the sugar levels back down. I've hit a bit of an inflammatory response. My adrenaline's high, my cortisol's higher. I'm a bit hungrier than normal now because my palate now has a taste for something sweet, and it gave me a little bit of a dopamine hit when I was eating it. And whilst I was eating it, guess what? My brain rewarded me because I distracted myself from feeling stressed, tired, because I was enjoying the food. So it wasn't that it took the stress away, it was just like a blindfold. Then when the food's gone again, it's got bigger, right? So we've got more problems now. We had four. Yeah, we had 4 problems before, we now have 5 because now we want more. And it's interesting. Then when we look at the cons of it, okay, how much does it cost? Binge eating, not just financially, but also in time, in sleep, in energy. Now we start to get curious and ask different questions, but it can take a while to get to that, into that space. So yeah, self-sabotage is a really interesting thing. So
yeah, do you give your clients different techniques? Because we teach EFT, which is a tapping sequence, so if you find yourself going towards food that you shouldn't be eating, or if you're, you know, if it's during the time of your fast and you really, you know, you shouldn't be having snacks during that time, we teach them a sequence of tapping on different pressure points, so that acts as a distraction. And it's incredibly powerful to just take the mind away from what they were doing. And actually, when you go through this process of tapping, if you complete it, you're no longer hungry. So all you've done is sort of break that journey to the biscuit tin, by giving something else to do. And it doesn't have to be tapping. It could be just, you know, turning around and looking at a picture of your child. So if your child is the motivation for you, if you want to lose weight because you want to be around and be fit and healthy for your child so that you can run around and live a long life and even see your grandchildren, if you were to look at a picture of your child every time you reach for the biscuit tin, that would make you think twice and think, actually, no, I'm reversing. I don't need to do that because my child is more important than that biscuit.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, yeah, we do different things like that. And it depends on the individual, like you said, because someone might not be ready for the tapping stuff. Like, you know, someone, I don't want to do that. Whereas someone might go, I'll go, okay, could you put your favorite song on, dance for 3 minutes, then give yourself permission to eat. If you still want to eat after that, just go and eat, but listen to your favorite song, dance around. And I can vouch for this. I can be quite tired then my kids go, oh, I want this song on. Then we just have a disco. We dance around, and I'm like, oh wow, I'm got full of energy now in 3 minutes. That is, and it's quite powerful. Like people, music brings a lot of memories for people.
Yeah, definitely.
Moving, they dance, they feel good, they get the endorphins from exercise, and it's a bit like we do a 1 minute workout every day. And in that 1 minute, it's like, it feels like nothing. It's like, well, what's 1 minute going to do? Yeah, 1 minute in isolation will do nothing, really. Indirectly, though, that boosts your endorphins. That does actually impact your insulin sensitivity and how your metabolism and how you handle food. That might now mean that you're no longer hungry because you're actually just bored. And all these things start to come into it now. And then it's like, actually, indirectly, those small, seemingly insignificant habits start to add up to compound transformative results. Yeah. Cool. Yeah, no, that's really helpful. So what would you say if you were to give kind of your top tip to anyone looking to kind of break a habit or develop a new habit, rather, either or? What would you say is something that's kind of a practical strategy that you would go away if you had to kind of give?
Yeah, I think
that's fine.
Yeah, the most sort of practical thing really is to focus on the why. What difference is losing that weight going to make for you? Because often there is sometimes a reason why that person feels, actually, I do want to lose the weight, but there's another reason why they're holding on to the weight. So maybe there's, somebody said to them, oh, actually, I quite like you with a few extra pounds on, and they might just hear that in their mind, and that's what they've been holding on to. So there has to be a really strong focus on, why do you need to lose this weight? And then when you've really got that focus, then you've got a starting point. Because so many people have said to me, I really need to lose that weight, but I can't do it right now. That's the other thing. You have to be ready. You have to be really ready to make that change. You can't go into it half-heartedly and expect results. You have to be really mentally ready to do things differently, because if you continue doing the same things, you will not see the results that you want to see. You have to make a real step change in the right direction to see results.
Yeah, absolutely. And once you've got that why, like I always say, like day one, just you've got that why now, write it down. You'll probably even make a better choice by writing down that why. And it's almost like a polite kick up the bum, isn't it? Like, this is what I'm doing. Absolutely. I'm either saying yes to this with my actions, or I'm saying no to this. And then if we can start to bring in kind of what we spoke about before and what you mentioned about visualizing where you want to be, acting based on how you want to feel rather than how you currently feel. We haven't even spoken about a carbohydrate or a saturated fat, and we're already probably do more of what we already know, which if we did what we said we would do, or did what we already knew already, we'd probably be 80% there.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I find with a lot of my weight loss clients, there often is a reason behind their weight gain, like the loss of a parent, for example. It's quite common for people to say, well, actually, I've gained a lot of weight in the last few years. And you say, well, when did it start? Or, actually, when a parent died, or when I lost my best friend to cancer, or something like that. There's generally some reason why the weight gain has started. Is quite unusual that it's been a very steady trickle throughout their lives. Very often there is something that is the trigger. And with what I do, I can help, to make them feel better about that situation, to make it less raw, and to change the way that their relationship is with that memory, so that it can fade the memory a little bit, or that they get some of the things that I do, especially when there's been a loss involved, is we actually work on getting them to be able to say a final goodbye to their partner, or their friend, or whoever it is, the parent who's passed away. So if you can do that, if you can sort of say a final goodbye internally and mentally, then they are feeling much stronger once they've done that, to be able to look after themselves and make the right choices for themselves.
Yeah, no, definitely, that's great. Yeah, perfect, cool. So is there anything else that you would kind of want to add, or anything else that you want to chat about?
Yes.
Obviously, kind of where people can find out a bit more about you as well.
Absolutely, yeah. My website is www.naturalhypnotherapy.co.uk, where you can see all about the different types of therapy that I offer and for the different areas. But what it has been great about chatting to you is because lots of our things, the things that we do, complement each other greatly, because I help people with they're making the changes internally in their subconscious mind to give them that strength to then embark on the fitness and, making changes to their lifestyle long term, so that they change the way that they feel about foods. And I help them to see things for what they really are, to see things like the sweet foods or the fatty foods, to actually see them as unpleasant fats and the sweets as unpleasant sweets, and I can actually help them feel differently about that food. So, for example, if somebody is really into eating pizza and they love pizza, I can actually get them to visualize whenever they see a pizza that pizza is actually really unpleasant and it's just like a lump of fat and it's really unappealing to them. So that can help as well to change the way that their mind sees these types of foods.
Yeah, absolutely. It's fascinating. I could talk all day about.
We could, yeah.
Those beliefs, thoughts that we have about certain habits that we do, and from why we do stuff. Is it to please others, or am I pleasing myself, or am I scared of not fitting in, so I act in a certain way? It's really powerful. So, yeah, no, absolutely, and obviously you're in next week for our Q&A.
Yes, yeah.
Private in the members area as well, which is cool. So I'll be putting some questions out, specific questions for next week as well, which would be really good. Brilliant, perfect. Well, thank you for coming on. It's been great.
Yeah, lovely chatting to you.
And the why, the writing down. If you can apply anything today, if you're overwhelmed with this nutrition stuff, just get a hold of that first, day one, and move on from there.
Yeah.
Perfect. Great stuff.
Take care.
Any questions? If anyone has any questions at all, just put it in the comments or send us a message, and I can always forward to Hannah if you're didn't see it or anything. So yeah, that's great. Awesome.
All right.
Perfect. See you later.
See you next week. Bye.